Welcome to our Pitch for Capital Lunch and Learn show, where we delve into the world of investors and founders of future innovations. We discuss upcoming Pitch for Capital demo days, the start of 30 days of private investor meetings, and mentoring for registered founders who have between $100,000 and $20 million in revenue in the last 12 months. Registered founders and event supporters are scheduled to appear on the show. Also, founder demo days are live streamed on Kern.al. Kernal is a consolidated space for creatives to find, share, and grow startup ideas, to help founders connect with capital and investors connect to concepts and spot where the biggest opportunities are. Step into the forefront of innovation as we delve into the ever-evolving landscape of technology, blockchain, AI, sustainability, smart cities, and more. And everyone registered gets to relax and network at our CEO.
Hey, David. Nice
Yeah,
to
hi.
jump in here.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, great. Yeah, sorry about that. I had a slight kerfuffle here. I had to switch to my mobile also. So basically, I had a computer error. So let me see if I can get this going.
I might be able to present for myself too.
But I'll see if I can get something. Let me see. Okay, from my phone, I still might be able to get this going. So just be patient. Sorry about that.
Sure. I'm sharing my slides. If you want to give me the permission to share the slides.
Oh, okay, sure, right, yeah. So let me just set it up on my side on the phone, because I can still do. All right. So let me just so I can add the ticker there. And okay. All right. There we go. So I can do. You have the slides. You're right. I sent you the slides, right?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay. Great. Yeah, we can. Yeah, if you can just put the slides up, and then we can talk about behind the scenes at Consensus. So basically, as the intro said, we are doing events at great conferences in great cities like Austin. So between May 29th and the May 31st, at the end of this month, is Consensus Austin. Used to be in New York. It moved to Austin about 2-3 years ago. I went as just a visitor to the side conferences two years ago, and I saw how it was really fantastic with a lot of the different platforms there, and so I wanted to go back, and this time we're going to do a happy hour. So we'll have a happy hour on the 29th. That is a featured side event with Consensus by CoinDesk. So we're happy to do that and do that, bring that back again like we did in 2018. So with Consensus when it was still here in New York. But so we're happy that we can do something and help out and learn things about the community and what's going on at Consensus. So that's what this live stream is about. So, yeah, we can just bring up the slides. Shai, you can share the slides. Thanks. Do you have slides? Okay.
Thank you, David. So yeah, let me.
Sorry. Okay.
I do the slides. You just have to add the slides to the stage.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. There you go. Sorry, I'm on my phone. Apologies.
Okay.
Let me see. I'm probably gonna. Okay, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. I have the slides ready to go. We just need to add them to the stage. So it's within the StreamYard, the other screen share that's there for the slides.
Okay. Oh, you don't have permission.
No, I don't.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay, give me a second. Apologies. Let me get the. I don't know if I can get the slides up from my phone. I don't believe I can. So
If you may just have to add the slides that I'm trying to share to the stage, and then I should be able to control it.
Oh, there it goes. Okay, thanks.
Awesome.
Okay, now I see it. Yes.
All right.
Okay, please go ahead. All right. Yeah, we can do it this way. Thanks.
So let's jump in here. I'll run through the slides, David, if you want to then jump into the discussion that's here.
Yes. Thanks.
Let's see. We'll start off there. So I can kind of kick it off here with the historical concept, right? From when we talk about blockchain, it's important to understand that we're not necessarily talking about brand new technology. It's not that the underlying tech is something that just got built in the last couple of years. The fundamentals of blockchain and decentralized ledgers and decentralized compute storage go back even as early as the 70s, possibly even in some cases the 50s. If you consider the Dartmouth AI conference in 1956, there's some early signs of even distributed compute and storage going back to the early days of the university computer systems. So the concept of blockchain as a distributed ledger again is not new. It's really in the Bitcoin white paper, the way that Satoshi had put the things together, and then the growth of different blockchain networks that we had really from about 2014, 15, 16, and onwards, as different networks come to be. We've been around in this tech for quite some time now. So when we talk about specifically private blockchains, those have been around roughly for about 10 to 12 years or so, and again, different forms, but generally the sense of blockchain have been around for about 10 to 12 years. And then public chains, in a way, have been around for about, let's say, 8 or 9 years or so. So this is still fairly new tech in the way that we have it built out today, and in the way that's kind of immaculate to put together. And so at the core of what blockchain is, and particularly what we talk about permissionless blockchain or decentralized blockchain and Web3, and why it's a technological disruptor, is because of the decentralized nature of blockchain. And part of the core principles is that decentralized ethos, where there is no central authority, there's no single point of failure. We're really trying to build a network that's owned and is a commodity in the underlying layer, and is distributed. Anybody can use that network or use those toolings. So you think about, for example, cloud computing today, the costs of cloud computing in some cases are out of reach for some developers. That's part of the goal of decentralized compute, is to bring down some of those costs and make programmability more accessible to more users. So that's just a quick foundation there. Dave, anything to add, and then I'll jump to the next one on security infrastructure. All right, let me jump to the next one here. So when we talk about scaling and securing the blockchain infrastructure, there's many different ways to scale a blockchain. Part of one of the challenges that we have is that when you talk about a permissionless blockchain network, it's not a single entity that owns it. It's not a single person that owns it. Part of the nature is that it is a decentralized computational environment or computational network. And so if you're building it in that sense, and you're building it for the community to be able to run their own nodes, run their own infrastructure, you have to make sure that the foundational documentation, foundational details of the underlying network is there so that people can run those nodes. And then that's how we get more scaling in the blockchain network, is by more people running those underlying blockchain nodes. It's often referred to that resiliency comes with the scale of the blockchain network. Part of the security of the underlying blockchain network comes in the amount of validator nodes in the network, or the amount of nodes in the network that can confirm that a transaction is valid. And so if you think about, if there's only 20 nodes in the network, you have to compromise 11 of those, and then you have the ability to do what's called a 51% attack, where you control those nodes and you therefore convince the network, so to speak, that those illicit transactions were valid, even though they're not, because you compromised 11 of the 20 nodes. If there's 2,000 nodes, right, then you have to compromise 1,001. So the more nodes that are in the network, in theory, the more security is, because it takes more hardware, it takes more computational power to attack and bring down that network. We are seeing many different real-world use cases to the technology. However, there is always challenges in implementation when it comes to blockchain use cases and solutions. Just the challenges in implementation costs and developer accessibility and developers understanding how to use the tools. And so we still face those challenges in everyday real-world use cases. But we are seeing a lot more real-world use cases. The great example here is, for example, Estonia, that has been using blockchain for many years and is an underlying part of their governmental system, where they have a policy that they can only ask you for information one time because it is written on the ledger. So many different use cases like that. There's many use cases in Africa around education, as well as in the MENA region. We're going to go through some slides here just for some quick overview. Part of the goal for this session, and Dave, what Dave wanted to do was really provide a foundational layer for those going to consensus. And so that if anybody in this ecosystem is watching and you're going to consensus, this is hopefully providing you a primer here so that you have a good understanding of when you get into blockchain. When we talk about blockchain, we often talk about the benefits of blockchain. We usually talk about security and trust. In this case, one of the benefits of the underlying technology of blockchain is this concept of immutability and encryption. When we have a traditional database, you think of an order system for an e-commerce solution. When you have new orders that go into that system, those orders can be changed. That's part of the underlying nature of the database technology, is that you can update, delete. There's a phrase called CRUD, create, update. I just forgot the R's. Create something, update and delete, create, rewrite, maybe update and delete. So anyways, you have those operations that you can do, right? And that's part of the underlying database technologies, that you can change underlying data. With blockchain, you can't, because that's part of the intention, is that it is immutable. There are some blockchains that have a concept of mutability to the underlying contract. Generally, they're not changing the underlying contract. What it is, it's subsequent contracts that get rolled out. And there's a proxy contract on top, or a layer on top, that is just pointing to the newest contract or the newest application code. A smart contract, which I keep mentioning here, is very similar to an application. It's a very generally honed in application, does a very specific things. If it's a financial product, it may be the part of the application that calculates the yield, liquidity, or calculates swap rates. But it can be as complex as the developer wants it to be. But we are seeing more and more smart contract languages that are enabling developers to leverage smart contracts for much more complex things, particularly things like running large language models on distributed nodes in the network. As part of that distribution, we have our data sovereignty, right? That's part of the goal, is that we want to make sure that as we write data to a blockchain network, that underlying data is decentralized, it is distributed, it is owned by the original owner of the data itself. And so even if the blockchain technology is there buried deep within the application and users don't know that they're actively using a Web3 application, a DApp, or any blockchain app, the goal is, because they are signing in with their private key, that they own that data from the very beginning, and their entire data set is always encrypted with their private key or some hash or mathematical computation off of that private key. And if we get into envelope encryption, which we won't get into today. David, I see you jumped back in here.
Yeah, sorry. I had some technical problems on my computer. So, yeah, I have a backup as a mobile. So I'm on the StreamYard mobile, so that's fine. So, yeah, basically, thank you for that. Basically, like you just said, and that's one thing that I want to bring up, because we're going to start doing more of these at our in-person events. And we're going to be talking more about smart contracts and just this topic right here on this page. So I'm glad that I came in at this point. So yeah, please continue. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you for jumping in here. Also, let me dig in a little bit more. To one of the challenges in the blockchain world that we often hear is around the energy consumption and environmental usage of blockchain and sustainability of blockchain. To summarize it this way, if we think of that, a blockchain network is comprised of nodes on that network, and those nodes can be servers, they can be laptops, they can be desktops, they can be a phone in some cases. Eventually, they're going to be your smart TV. So those nodes are on the internet, right? Those devices are on the internet generally anyhow. And the data that they're generating is now stored on those devices. And that's part of the environmental debate here, is that you have devices or servers running that in some cases would not be. That is true when you talk about a lot more of the legacy, either legacy blockchain networks that were around from like 2015 and 18, or you talk about maybe some of the newer ones that are coming out that are meant intentionally for lower level hardware, where part of the goal is to reuse old hardware and enable somebody to run a blockchain node. That hardware would normally end up in a landfill. It would end up in a waste somewhere. The hard drives would be shredded and would be destroyed and would be sitting somewhere. And so instead of that happening, what is happening is a repurpose or a reuse of that hardware. This is something that's happened for many years. If you think about corporate hardware and corporate equipment that's on lease, it goes through many years of cycles of going usually to educational institutions after it finishes its corporate lease cycle. No different in the data center. Many corporate data centers will donate their hardware or sell it to a reclamation company. That reclamation company will turn around and either donate it or resell it at an extremely steep discount to an educational entity or a research facility or nonprofit. And so in the case of these blockchain nodes, in many third world countries, or even here in the US, right, we're recycling the hardware. So in that case, I think that's actually a positive thing when it comes to sustainability wise. Now, the claim is, for example, with Bitcoin, that you have all these servers or devices out there that are doing nothing but hashing computational records and are burning power every day in exchange for currency and money. The same thing happens in the data center, though. That's no different than all the servers and the hardware that are running in every data center that I've built, or every cloud deployment and the underlying data centers that sit underneath those cloud infrastructures. It's the same thing. The hardware is still sitting there running computational use cases that in many cases the hardware owner has no idea what they're running because they're in an abstraction layer on top of that. So I find that argument a bit interesting and a bit moot, right? In many of the Bitcoin mining use cases that we see, even some of the other proof of stake networks that are out there, proof of work network specifically, it's often a reclamation of power from somewhere. So a solar plant or facility that has excess power, a plant or anything that's generating excess power, a methane or a farming facility that's generating excess methane and then converting that methane into power. So generally what we're seeing is a sustainability improvement because of blockchain, because we're reusing power that would normally go to waste. We're reusing energy that would normally go to waste and putting it into something. Now, if you don't believe in that something, right, you don't believe in cryptocurrencies or digital assets or those things, well, then the use case is going to be a waste anyways. So I think the way to think about this again is when we think about mining equipment in general, when it comes to any blockchain network, it's not really that much different than any hardware that's sitting in a data center today for e-commerce use cases and shopping during Christmas or shopping during Black Friday and Thanksgiving. That hardware often sits there for months unused until that shopping season or that shopping period. So let me move on here beyond corporate responsibility a little bit. We have some sessions here on specific to consensus. David, was there anything particular you wanted to highlight that stuck out to you?
Well, yeah, I know that a lot of there's I guess what some things I was thinking about what's moving some of these things are the UN sustainability goals, and also a lot on the corporate side. On the private side, I know a lot of companies, are trying to do targeting 2050. Now, I don't know if that's too late or not, but that's the number that they're saying with corporate responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm hearing is carbon neutral by 2050. So that's.
Yeah, let's hope that we're working towards those goals by 2050. So let me move on to the consensus here, because part of what we do want to highlight is the consensus event that's coming up, right? We want to make sure that people are aware. It is May 29th to May 31st. It is in Austin, Texas. It is an event that happens fairly regularly every year, and it's been a fairly wild, successful event. Just from my own experience of being to many different conferences, I will particularly call out that in consensus, what I prefer is generally the startups. What's called the startup village, because that's generally
my computer doesn't like me today. Sorry.
Yeah, we're having
Please continue. Yeah, sorry.
No problem. So the startup village for me is one of the I would say more exciting places, just because of some of the innovation that's going on there. A lot of really small startups, a lot of really innovative ideas, a lot of things that are just barely in production and market, and so many new ideas that are still coming around. The other part that I like is really the community stage, particularly because that does a specific effort of highlighting the community that's in the vibrant ecosystem that we have, and all the community events and community efforts that go on, because a big part of Web3 is the community. That being said, there's certainly a lot of other events and types of sessions going on there. Many people, if you're into art and NFTs, maybe you went to NYC NFT and you're in Austin, you want to stop by the gallery. It's their version of the NFT landscape that's there. There's the Gen C stage, which is all about the creators, and there's a creator summit there and a whole bunch of other stuff with the creators. And then two more was the spotlight stage and the town square, both highlighting specific areas of innovation that consensus is focused on. Again, it's 29th to the 31st. Yes. If you're in the Texas area, if you're going down, do reach out to David and I. We'll be happy to connect and talk about in-person opportunities.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Yes, it's going to be very, I know, like I said a little bit earlier, yeah, I went 2 years ago. It was very vibrant. That was my first time in Austin. So I know it's very vibrant, and it's only getting bigger and better. So I think it's expected to be around 15,000 or so. Mm-hmm. Between 15 and 20,000 people are expected to come into Austin. So yeah, it should be good. And there's going to be a lot of people who are in the developers. There's hackathons. Well, there's going to be hackathons for developers. There's going to be a lot of things that are going on. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and just to highlight here a couple of things, any conference is worthwhile going to if it's in the industry that you're in. But one of the things particularly about consensus is that they do a really good job of getting a very diverse crowd of people from the industry that are both on the technical side, and the business development side, and the deeper sides of engineering, and all throughout the different ecosystem. So there's a really diverse set of speakers that are there. And one of the things I enjoy, because you have the diversity, is really the foresight and the ability to sort of see what some of the things might come down the road, right? What are some of these innovations? That's part of why I like hanging out at the Startup Village, because of those innovations that are there. But those are some of the cool things because of those speakers that are at Consensus. There's going to be different sessions on regulations. That's something that always comes up in our industry, and understanding how to navigate different regulations in different country, whether you're launching a token as part of a token generation event because you're overseas, or you're here in the US and you have to go through a securitized or tokenized type of solution to go ahead and ensure that your token is legal by US standards. Speaking of standards, one of the cool things is that, again, because of that diverse audience, you get a good diverse perspective into global standards and different things that are happening around the world. It's a really great opportunity to see the innovation that's happening in other places that we still have yet to do here in the US, and get some of that insight. You'll also see some of the things around compliance. Again, fortunate is that there's other countries that are further ahead when it comes to stablecoin regulations and digital asset regulations and real world asset tokenizations, and putting things like bonds on chain. Again, you'll hear some of those compliance strategies from other countries. There'll be sessions specifically on investor related, right, on where capital is coming from, how capital is moving in the ecosystem, how capital is growing and moving between different blockchain networks, and where that investment's coming from. There's a lot of good insights into the market trends that, based on where the market's heading and the dynamics that are involved in the market, what are some of the investors and VCs, and how are they reacting to this environment? And so if you're a builder, if you're building something in space, it's a great place to be, because you get to hear some of that perspective and get to understand, okay, maybe this is why investors are not biting right now. It's because of these larger global macroeconomic situations that are happening, such as, unfortunately, wars in different countries that are affecting the overall market. And then that is what's unfortunately affecting investors, sometimes for positive and sometimes for negative. There's really cool stories, again, in that Startup Village, the town hall particularly, the community stage as well, around different nations and countries and builders and developers in many different areas of the world that are enabled because of blockchain. Either they are building an application and they went from this idea of wanting to go work for Google or Amazon instead of wanting to build Google or Amazon, to just wanting to build their solution and going to market with their solution. And so we're seeing a lot of innovative micro SaaS solutions coming in the industry, both in Web2 and Web3 side. And it's really great to see that empowerment that's happening all over the world. I will pause there real quick before we get into business models.
All right.
Anything to add there, Dave?
Yes. No, that's good. Thank you. Yes. Sure.
All right. So let me get into the business models that are here, and we have a couple more slides, and we'll leave some open time here for discussion. So when the great thing is, because you go, again, I'll mention the Startup Village. When you get to go and you get to see all these new ways of building services, whether it's a healthcare app, whether it's a music application, whether it's a social media application, whether it's an art app, whatever it might be, you get to see these new business models that are changing the industry, because now, instead of building a solution, we're generally building a platform. We're building an open platform for others to collaborate and build in the same way that we are thinking. But rather than going and building our point solution, we generally will build a platform and a point solution on top of that. And so the monetization strategy, the way that you look at your business and build your business models changes, because now you become a service provider, not just an application or an end usage service. And you become a service provider at the underlying layer there, because you're creating a platform. So I think that's some of the exciting ways that we're seeing some of the business models change as we go through the industry. Of course, every year there's new token standards and tokenomic models that come out and are released. And that really changes and drives a lot of these future business models and directions that we see. Let's get into our future directions here. So one of the key things here, right, is part of permissionless blockchain, and what Consensus is talking a lot about is this idea of permissionless blockchain, that it is about building collaborative network. It is about bringing other people onto your network as well, and launching a network that does a specific thing or does a particular use case, and ensuring that it is open and inviting others to join that network. Because of those open source contributions, that is then what pushes and moves the blockchain ecosystem forward. Not just the blockchain ecosystem as a whole, but that specific network, right? You're able to then get other people building on top of those open source solutions, and combining them with your solutions, combining them with other solutions, and you get a Lego piece, you get a Lego hodgepodge of solutions that come together. And what you end up finding is different synergies across the ecosystem. You might be building an application, you need a liquidity manager underneath. Maybe you need a bridge protocol to transfer assets. You need another protocol to package NFTs into one NFT. That's the great thing about the open ecosystem, is that it's always encouraging this collaboration. And we will often hear of these synergies coming out of consensus. And so I highly recommend that you go to any of the sessions around the sort of partner development sessions where you have, maybe something like Infura presenting with another customer. You have AWS in many cases presenting with another customer. It's always great to hear those synergistic stories. One thing around...
Yes, thanks.
Sorry, a bit of an echo there. So, David, if we talk about education here, right, there's lots of different areas of education that we often hear for blockchain, whether it's on the certification side of allowing users to verify and confirm that they've completed their coursework, or it's the decentralization of the educational platforms and the amount of educational material that we're seeing around Web3. That is actually one of the things I enjoy about conferences, Consensus particularly. There is a lot of knowledge opportunities. There's a lot of great opportunities to learn, a lot of great opportunities to hear about real world case studies and use cases. And you hear about businesses that are there and that have adopted blockchain for their maybe supply chain use case. And whether it worked or didn't work, you get to learn about how they overcame some of the challenges they saw in those implementations. All right, let me wrap up here with the last two slides. One of the things that I mentioned a little bit as I was talking about community is the ethical considerations around blockchain and accessibility, the ability that we have to drive social good and change because of the accessibility of the technology, and making sure that the underlying hardware nodes is democratized and people can run those nodes on old hardware and old equipment. When we talk about blockchain, we often talk about governance. Part of a key thing in an open network is that open governance, allowing the community and the ecosystem that is building on that network to go ahead and govern and decide the new features of that network, how the network grows and scales, and what new things come and change in the network. That is not something that we normally see and have in a traditional cloud infrastructure. If you're a user of a cloud service or cloud provider, you can request a change, but it's still up to the cloud provider to make that change, and then you have to adopt that change the way that they made it. In an open network, you get to drive that change and make proposals. All right, let me jump to the last one here. Just from a roadmap wise, right? If you think about the evolution to decentralize and getting to the state where we have a fully decentralized internet, even if you're a builder today and you're building your Web3 application, the challenge is building a fully decentralized stack. We are slowly getting to that stage where you can decentralize and find different decentralized solutions for different parts of your application that you're building. For example, if you need video streaming, there may be a network for that. If you need financial products and financial instruments, there's a network for that. If you need to host your front end, there's networks that are specific for hosting your front end. If you need to run AI models on GPU hardware, there are now networks for that as well. So we're slowly seeing more and more of the foundational pieces that make up the cloud that we have today being built in that decentralized world. And we're still a long ways away. I would say probably another 10 to 15 years. Part of the challenge is around the legacy hardware, legacy mindsets, legacy equipment. And I think that's one of the fun things of going to a conference like Consensus, is that you get that diverse insights into how do you bring on this legacy ecosystem, the legacy TradFi world, the legacy enterprises. How do you bring them into this new Web3 world? Consensus is not a degen conference, right? You're not there hearing everything Web3 and Web3, everything is awesome. It's very much about the evolution of blockchain and the evolution and growth of the ecosystem as a whole. So that's the last slide that we have. I will jump to the last one here, and Dave, feel free to jump in with anything you'd like to add here.
Sure. Yes. It's thank you for that. Yes, and thank you. And as we start closing, thank you for that recap, and apologies for my technical difficulties. So I don't think right now we'll be able to do the outro. But basically, I was going to just add a little bit of a video clip that we put together, but that's fine. Basically what this last panel is what we're talking about. So yeah, you're always welcome to register. There's still registrations available. So we're doing a ticket, drink ticket offer, and those tickets are still available. We sold out of our free cash bar tickets. Those are sold out, but we still have drink tickets available. At our gathering is going to be downtown in downtown Austin, and we're going to have some speakers, and we're looking forward to meeting you. And we're also advise you to look at other side events. So there's other featured corporate gatherings, and there's going to be a lot going on at CoinDesk. CoinDesk will be with speakers and the lineup that's there. It's very impressive. It's going to be exciting. And then there's going to be a lot of side events where you're going to be able to meet a lot of companies, a lot of innovations, a lot of development projects that are very innovative that we were talking about. So yeah, as we close up, we want to thank you, Shai. And for next week, we'll be as a preview. On our next week, we're going to be talking about blockchain and healthcare as the next preview topic for next week. I wasn't able to share the slide, the intro slides, but basically, yeah, that'll be next week's topic. And I want to thank you, Shai, for coming on to the show and being the co-host.
Yeah, thank you, David. I appreciate it. Excited to share the content, and have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.